be to rebut the case of the other side and rebuild your own material, but also to explain why the material which you delivered to the debate, what was reasoning behind this, and why you believe that this material was important. To achieve this, we need to know how to quantify the material and how to do the comparisons to the other teams. What are the tricks, or like what are the useful strategies to do so? About the extensions though, in terms of extensions, you need to bring something new to the table. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you need to bring to the table, here are completely new actors which are not relevant to the motion, but I just want to give something new. But it's something how to sell your extension. And I will link you one workshop, which I would love you to watch after, which is how to sell your extension, delivered by Techway. This is the workshop which very much helped me. And I don't want to repeat the content out of this, so I will focus on some other things so far. If you will have any question, if you can please unmute yourself and say question, because I'm not seeing you, so that will be probably the best option so far. And you can also wait for the sections with questions, just type your question down, so that will be helpful later. What sort of assumptions you need to have as a speaker when you enter the debate? That the other side need to have some things right. That there needs to be some sort of positive argumentation on their side of the house, which means that you need to assume that they will have some benefits. It's impossible that you will rebut every single thought. It's impossible that team will be so bad that they will be unable to come with any positive benefit. And you are always trying to compare your case to neither the average case on the other side or to the best version, not to the weakest example, because therefore your case is not universal and doesn't have that much strength. Second of all, judges need metric to compare the arguments. If there are different metrics in the debate, you need to explain why your metric is the best one or why your case is good for every metric. We will be developing the second point during this workshops. The third thing, last standing things after the debate can play on both sides. Your role is take all of them and quantify their meanings. For example, one team might have the argument left standing, but the arguments, it's not necessarily relevant to the motion. It can be copy-paste to all of the other motions, which means that even if it wasn't rebutted, it doesn't necessarily give you that much benefit to your case. So you always need to make the strategic comments. How that looks like. For example, if you are debating the motion about Eastern European countries and NATO, and you are spending 1 or 2 minutes on characterization of the Baltic states, of the international relations, of the previous conflicts, you need to give us some lines and some contextualization. What is the meaning of this knowledge and how that fit to the debate? This is necessarily important. So that's the 3 rules which I would like you to keep in mind while going into this. The structure of rebuttal. And here is the important point. Every weighing and every winning of the debate and even every extension needs to have the bits of rebuttal. Why this is the case? Because if you present 4 arguments, opposition present the 4 arguments, and assuming that the level of proving it's the same, how judges should decide which case is more important. There needs to be some interaction between teams, and there needs to be decreasing the value and the strength of the particular argument, and then weighing up the average version of the case or like the weaker version, which you already proved or like showed why it's not particularly strong. Then you can also set, I have 3 responses, and then give your responses. This is something from the rebuttal workshop. So for people to be easy track what you are doing, for you to plan your time, to not go too long. And about the extension, about the structure of rebuttal, this is very important, and you can write that down. When you are the member of the government or member of the opposition, sometimes people are going too hard into rebuttal and forgot to bring the extension. The rebuttal in the extension speeches should not last longer than 3 minutes, which is absolute maximum. Because if you are spending more time on rebutting the other teams than presenting your constructive, that means that they had lots to say that need to be rebutted. And then your whips can't add the new material to your constructive, which might be a little bit problematic. But this, I believe, it's only the reminder for you how to structure the rebuttal, which was delivered in the previous workshop. I just wanted to be clear that these things are interwoven. So to do the good weighing, the basis of that, it's firstly preparing the good rebuttal and decreasing the value of the other teams and presenting your own material. Now, moving forward, let's go further. 4 rounds of response. So you can tell that A, the argument is irrelevant or it's off clash. A, don't overuse this because that sounds like the easiest way to say, but you need to justify why the other stuff is irrelevant or why this is something which you have on your side of the house as well. Second of all, it's that the argument does not have the analytical links to reach its conclusion. For example, when the government is saying that the outcome of this policy will be more distribution for kids, for education, for infrastructure, but you probably didn't see how these things are coming to an end. So you can also point out that their case have very low probability and likelihood because it's unclear how that actually will happen. The third one, that it's just like factually incorrect, so you can give some sort of data or justify some sort of other norms which are more likely to being true. And fourthly, why, and this is introduction towards the weighing practice, even if the argument is true, here are the more important things which we brought, and here is why this is more important. So that was just like a very brief reminder about the rebuttal and about the rebuttal structure. I will later also send you this presentation, so don't worry, you will have these notes. But yeah, now going into the weighing per se. Weighing metrics. Here are 3 tips how to pick the correct weighing metric. First of all, the one connected to the burdens and words in the motion. For example, if you are debating the international relations debate and people are talking very generic things like Middle East, like these organizations, but without details, who are the members, what are the rights in the organization, you can do very easy weighing towards the other teams by saying, panel, the motion reads, this house would do something in this particular country or this organization, not overall in the world, which means that the arguments of our opening house are not very linked or not directly touched to the motion and are very generic. We are giving you something directly responding to the question. Or when there is debates about like Trump, Biden, and people didn't give enough characterization and information about the system, you can also wait and say why your arguments are more relevant and beat the other teams in the debate. About the burdens, it's also like when the motion is this house regrets, sometimes the teams in the opening houses didn't prove that their counterfactual is true. So they didn't fulfill all of the metrics which the motion imposed on the people, which means that you can also say that this is something which is necessarily required by the motion to being true and being done by the people, which means that your extension is feeling the burden in the motion particularly. Or, for example, this house believes that in the interest of someone, maybe the government was correct, but they never linked that to why this is in the interest of the particular actor. So this is the easiest weighing metric, the clearest one when you are showing, look, here is what the government team said, and here is how we are playing out in this particular comparison. Second pro tip, the metric which other teams agreed on. So you probably need to engage in main question given by the other teams and prove neither why their metric it's not the most important in the round, or maybe show how your case is filling that metric. You can't just assume, this is wrong metric, my metric is more important. For example, the principal metric or like the utilitarian metric, but you need to respond and explain why the other teams is less correct than you on the comparison. And thirdly, you need to justify your metric. So why people should judge based on this, and you need to give the reasons to this prioritization. For example, our metric is the best one because as the only team in the room, we are thinking about the long-term consequences, which we are only capable to gather by giving the guaranteed benefits bring by our policy. So you need to give people the reasons why you are the most correct team in the room and why this is the most important. I will move now. Before I will move, let's check if there are any questions to the first part. So I will stop screen sharing for a second. I will have a look at you. After what I said already about the metrics and how that works, what are the reasoning behind this, do you think you have any questions or something was unclear?
No.
Cool. Therefore, let's get back to the things. So about weighing benches. So the next slide will present easy but effective weighing strategy on how to compare yourself to your opening table if you are discussing the same clashes, actors, and areas of interest. This is also relevant to the extension because that's also covered the part what's happened if we are discussing the same issues, we are discussing the same actors, and that doesn't initially sound like an extension, right? Because in some motions, it's just you can't bring more new actors. For example, when you are discussing how parents influencing their children, probably you didn't bring here big politics clash or like big economic clash about the macroeconomics, right? So you are probably operating on the relations with the education, about listening to the parents, about some sort of family law, about some sort of family love. So that's very similar issues, but there is definitely enough material to broaden the new questions. So here are two useful tips, how to weight your extension, but also how to make the extension on the benches. So starting with the bench weighing, which is closing government versus opening government and closing opposition versus opening opposition. So I think the biggest mistake when we are doing in debating that people are jumping in, people are presenting extension, and people assuming that because they have new material and because they responded to the opposition, to the opposition. Therefore, people thinking, I don't need to talk about my opening because I beat the other opposition teams. But sometimes that the teams didn't respond to the strongest material, or sometimes the things which we are bringing sounds very similar, and you need to do a little bit more work to prove to the people that they are not similar and differentiate yourself. So when opening tables have tendency to matter dump by trying to deliver as much material as possible. For example, PM and DPM are like, I have 5 arguments in my speech. This, and this. There is likely that they will not prove that this is actually happening. They will just sound like they are achieving lots of benefits. And then opening opposition, it's like, no, you didn't prove this. This is unlikely to happen. It's the best situation for you as the closing to enter the debate and show that you are filling the gaps. However, the teams sometimes are lying to judges, being like, oh, they never proved this. That's unclear. But for judges, it is. So you need to be sure that before you are delivering your new ideas and new things or your new proofs, you are summarizing how the opening case looks before you enter the debate. What were their conclusions? What were they missing? And what's going on? I think this is necessarily important. Therefore, this is the first method. Let's go to the second slide, which is again the bench weighing. Sometimes opening tables approach is very generic and didn't reflect the reality of the current situation of discussed groups. That's happened usually in the feminist movements motion, LGBT plus movements motion, environmental movements, some minorities, ethnic minorities, some particular regions. And then when you are adding the missing characterization and you are showing what are proven incentives of these groups and the capacity to act, you are much more capable to win the round than them, right? Because you are more nuanced towards the motion, which responds to the idea of the first weighing metric of what you can do. Therefore, you need to explain why it's crucial. So you need to explain why this characterization which you are delivering, it's changing the debate and it's more important than the material delivered before. That's about the bench weighing. Do you have any questions towards the bench weighing? If not,
no.
Okay, cool. Then I'm moving forward. The next section and the next examples, I will be talking about some of the effective weighing metrics with examples of types of motion in which that might be relevant, just to show you the depiction of that in the existing round and not necessarily in the vacuum. Examples of effective weighing. A. I will drink coffee and I will. Cool. So the first one, it's certainty or guarantee of the outcome. On which side of the house the benefits are guaranteed and will happen. So the big problem in debating is that people usually have problem with justifying and proving the likelihood, the likelihood and probability of the things happening. Therefore, when you have debate, this house would implement, or like this house would make the taxes, or this house would redistribute some sort of money, this is guaranteed that will happen. So you are certain, so you don't need to prove the likelihood. So you can only analyze and weigh it up what sort of consequences, benefits, and harms that will have. So you can weaponize that as your weighing metrics and challenge the opposition that they need to provide some likelihood analysis, how they will achieve the same outcomes on how to deal with this. Second of all, the size of the change. So, for example, if you will give extra taxes on some company, the shareholders and the CEOs and the people who are running the company will get lost, right? They will lose some sort of money, they will lose some sort of capital, and they will not get much benefits. But you can say that the size of the change, the amount of people which will be capable to receive the help, it's much bigger compared to their loss. And then also you can analyze that they can get their profits and benefits again because they are entrepreneurial. They were capable to create company in the first place. They were still getting the guaranteed revenue every single month. And for the people who will be capable to now enter the job market or who will be capable to get the benefits from the taxation, this is the only chance, or at least this is increased chance compared to their status quo. So you can use the size of the change of the group and compare that to the loss which the other side it will be getting. The third thing about the effective weighing, it's more justified based on the past events, based on principles, and which the past events might create potential disadvantage for particular groups. Usually, it's very helpful in debates about quotas or affirmative actions. So that means that, for example, if you are discussing that if women will get the parities in the boards of management in the companies and other things, you can say that this is justified to give them that because they didn't have chance in the past and before, and they were oppressed by the patriarchal norms, etc. But there is also good response to this, which opposition can make, right? And this is showed in the next slide. Long-term versus short-term change. You can say that because in the short term of period, when you are doing that, people will be so backlash, like they will not like the idea, or they will be angry, or that will create the negative perception of the movement. The long-term benefits will never occur and will be stopped because people will lose the legitimacy to claim that in the other way. So as you see, there is the one way of weighing metrics if you are trying to defend the policy, but if you are trying to go against, you can also find the effective way how to do this and how to try to deal with this. Fifthly, irreversible change. Irreversible change, a good method of weighing, especially in debates, when you can't change your mind later. What are the consequences of that later? Which means that sometimes in the debate, it's like you are entering the machine, it's irreversible, or like you are giving up your citizenship, it's irreversible. You can, when government is claiming lots of benefits, you are like, but you never ever can change your mind. You can't change your decision. If you grow as a person, if your circumstances will change, if you will fall in love, if you will move on somewhere, you never can change this. And irreversibility will be with you for the long period of time. So you see, you can mix the both metric of the long term, but also how strong and how severe are the changes implemented by the motion. Sixthly, I want the more financial capital. And here is a very funny story. So there is the motion about the ownerships of the clubs, right? That there was like a lot of like Qatari or like Saudi Arabian concerns which are trying to buy lots of clubs and invest in them. And people are like, this is immoral, these people are treating people badly, this is problematic, we don't want to do this. But there is very easy defense to this, right? They have definitely much more money than the other had, right? So this is extremely important. This is extremely important to quantify that if the funding is important for the development of the club, to pay pensions, to pay salaries, to to pay the licenses, to pay for the training spots, then this is important metric in the debate. And probably the people who are watching the sports will be less concerned about the Qatari or like Saudi Arabia logo than about the performance of their teams. Or maybe the metric is different on the other side. However, these are just like a way how to justify why your side and why your stance might be comparatively better than the other side. Are there any questions to this?
No.
Okay, now I will stop screen sharing for a second because I need to count how many people we have here. So we have 13 people, so I will need 4 rooms. Just a second, I will message Artem. What will happen now? I will divide you in 4 groups. 3 people in each group. So it's exactly how you're divided. So I will read your names, and that means, or I will write in the chat. So the first 4 people, which is Abay, Amangul, Anna, and Bogdan.
Klaudia, can you repeat now who you want? Yeah, okay.
I'm typing in the chat. So the first 4 people, room 1. Elizabeth, NH Biff, Olha, and Pavel.
Yes.
You will be in room 2. I will just firstly divide and then I will tell you what is the drill. And the third room, we will have Sergio, and the two names written in Cyrillic, which I'm not able to read. But you are in the lowest part of the chat, so I hope it's clear. So we all have 3 rooms. So the rest of the people are in room 3. So we all have 3 rooms, and you all have the same job. You all have 10 minutes, and you will be working together in the breakout rooms. I'm back to sharing the screen again. Okay, cool. So here's the first drill. So you are closing government, all of you. You are one team. There's the motion. This house regrets the rise of social media as primary source of information. And here is the depiction of what is the case delivered by opening government. I will copy that to the chat as well. Your job as closing government is to, that's the description. Let me copy this firstly. Okay. Here is the content. So opening government makes an argument about how the quality of news on social media is diluted by fake sources and claiming that consumers of news on social media uncritically absorb stories without questioning their sources. Additionally, they are making the argument that social media are making people more radical and angry. For the purpose of this drill, please assume that the team on opening government proved these points. Your job are twofold. Firstly, you need to prepare the extension towards this material, so the new material which can win the debate. And then you need to weight your extension and explain why it's more important than the things from the proposition. You have advantage because the proposition didn't explain why this is more important. So this is how you are entering the debate. The time it's now 40 past. So we will meet again in the main room 50 past, and we will present the drills. So now you can move to your rooms, and we'll see you in 10 minutes.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Okay, we are waiting for everyone to come back now. So let's give people a minute.
So people should be joining now. And if you need allocations again, please message me on Facebook again, okay? Because
okay, no worries.
Helps.
Will do. Cool. Let's do now the checkup. So we have the first group from room 1, which is Abay, Amadou, Anna, and Bogdan. So you're the group number 1. I think we can start. So you can divide between you, like who do you prefer should start, your argumentation. I will not pressure and read your names, so I guess it was the group project, so you know who should present. So let's start with the extension case which your group find out. So Abay, Amadou, Anna, and Bogdan, what is your extension? And then the other person to present the weighing metric, why this is more important.
Yeah, well, so we discussed in the group, so the one of the extensions that we would like to bring to the game is that Using of social media could harm your relations with your friends or family or simply people you know. Since nowadays social media allows you to post or retweet some stuff, uh, some political stuff or religious stuff, and when people use the social media as a main source of information, that could harm their relations with relatives or friends when they, for example, they see that the family member or the friend retweeted or posted some political stuff or religious stuff or some other news that this person find offensive. So basically, by using social media as the main source of information, um, it deletes the border between um, some personal relations and between the source of information that could be sometimes offensive. So basically, that could lead to the destruction of good relationship between people. That could also lead to loneliness and the situation when the person have some conflicts with their family members or let's say their friends, just because the use of social media as social media as a main source of information. So basically, this is much more important than the stuff that was said on the first table, since the personal interaction between one person and his or her relatives or friends is much more important. So because we spend most of the time not with for example, the people that we read the news about, but with our family, with our friends, and basically this leads that your relations with the persons who you spend the most of your time could be in danger when you will use social media as a main source of information. Yep. Yeah,
Okay. Can the other person from the group now present the way why this is important than the arguments written in the chat? Person from the same group, weighing.
Yep, may I continue? I've came up with 2 points. First is about impacts of not giving true information. I think that it can affect a person's life. For example, if you assume that this information is not true, and in this information they are shaming one person or something like this, and it can affect this person's life. Second point is about ordering information posts. For example, primary sources as BBC or New York Times work for the images and will not post not true information that some company or someone else order from them, and this can affect to preference shaping, something like I don't know, one politician or one person can order post about presenting him or her as a great person, and they will vote for this person or do something for this person, and that's all.
I just want to comment on this. I think there needs to be a little bit better job done in firstly, what is exactly the extension? So how do we want to sell this? Because I think just in the end of the idea was said that this is about spending time together and with the close people. But second of all, the linkage between being the primary source of information, how important the information was and how that actually played out. So that's just like important information, but let's move to the second extension. Did this group prepare the second extension? Okay, we will back to you in a second. Now the room 2, so Elizabeth, Olga, Pavel, who from you will present the first extension?
And Elizabeth, turn on A.
Oh yeah, sorry, I thought you were referring to us. Does who wants to go from our team? Does anyone else want to go? No?
No.
Yeah, do you want to go?
No. My English is not so good.
Okay, it's up to you. Okay, so basically, I think with our team, we had like sort of two main points, and they were referring to like the freedom of the individual and how that is taken away, and how our society becomes less free through social media. First of all, we talked about like the fact that news, like the sources of news become less transparent, so it's more open to manipulation from like sort of sinister sources in a way. So the fact that basically, yeah, just like foreign agents can fund the news and you have no idea who's funding it because there's very little regulation in social media. And even if there is regulation, there's just like so many social media bots, and they can be set up so easily with so like little investment that even if the government does try to regulate it, it's almost impossible. And the people who control the news basically control the people, because people make their decisions based on information. So therefore, if we have some sort of foreign country, like maybe Russia, funding adverts on Facebook, then that means that basically they're controlling the politics of a country, which means that country is no longer really free or democratic. And then our second point was basically like a lack of trust in the news. So basically, if people believe and they see that the news is fake, what they're going to do is when they see news that is true, but they just don't want to believe, they will say, oh, well, it must be fake, and they won't believe it. And that just ingrains biases in people. So they will only believe what they want to believe, and therefore they won't make well and informed decisions. And this is important in a democracy, but also in your own personal life, that you base your decisions on actual information, because that's the way you're going to get like the best results. So lack of trust in the news, less transparency. And then like finally we had like a small case about like sort of small media companies going bust, and how these companies like are really important for the communities, and how they employ like really sort of highly skilled individuals who will lose their work, because like social media companies can be based anywhere, whereas like traditional media companies tend to be based in that community, and how they're like the bedrock of a community, etc. But that's about it, I think. Unless anyone else wants to add anything.
Yeah, and let's listen to the next person. The person who is asked NHB, feel free, like my English is terrible and I'm managing, so don't worry. And especially after the case was delivered, you can just give us the overview why this might be more important than the case delivered in the chat. You can try, don't worry. It's only us, so.
Let me a second to concentrate.
Yes, sure.
Concentrate.
And then you can use with notes.
Because we tell our story about what? About all people. Why it is about all people? Not all people become radical and angry, but all people are have their the specific of thinking. I mean, all people have biases. All people have their view of world, and that's why the prejudice will touch everywhere. That's why the spatial and the probability of our consequences are higher than in first proposition. And thank you very much. That's what I want to say.
It's good. It's good. It's important to try. It's important to do this, especially during the drills. All good. So we have the third room now to give us your extension and the justification of weighing. So we are listening.
Who is first?
Alexei, I suppose.
Sergey, can you be the first?
Okay. I'll be. Okay. So first of all, what our first government say to us? In my case, they say that the news are deleted by fake news. They don't say us why is this important and how this fake news impact on us or on the people. What I will explain you is how this fake news are impacting the people and why we think this is a worst thing that the fake news properly. First of all, well, today we understand that people are choosing by finding in the internet, in the social media news, they are more they have a more chance to choose the fake news and see to them because there are much more interest. They're much more attractive to them. So they may find something like vaccines want to kill us, and they don't go and they don't get the vaccine. They can take the coronavirus or other viruses, and they can die or they can infect other people, or those viruses can mutate. This is a very unlikely, but they have a chance to this, and there will be a lot of people who will suffer from this. They can get racist ideas through news, through some groups in which they can go and find those ideas, and there are a lot of administrators of those groups who are caring to give them all the new idea who radicalize them more. They can get the populist idea, which don't work because those politicians who are saying to those ideas, they actually are more likely to saying that what is now our politicians don't work. They do bad stuff, and we will do a good stuff. But actually, they don't explain to the people how this is work, and they they don't know how this stuff will work. So why is this important? We think that targeting in the social media working for you to approve your ideas. So you can get a topic which you don't agree with because you have choosing some news in the past time, and you're more likely to find the idea which approve your ideals or your views, because all those social media want to take them there for you to spend more time on those social media, and you think that all of people are agreeing with you. It makes you in an information bubble from which you can get away. And why do you think this is more bad than this is I don't know, this is more important than just explain how how fake news are working? We think that only in our case is understandable why and how people are affected, why and how people are affected. And we think that people are more important than absolute fake news, and we show how this case are have the impact on people. But even if we think that impact is more important than the properly, I don't know, those chain, yeah, because those chain from social medias and sources of information to fake news, because we think that this impact is no matter from which mechanism are coming. Stop. Because impact is more important, because we think that this impact okay, so we think that this case is as bad as we can imagine, and no matter from which mechanism it came, we think that this is very bad, and we should regret this. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
I just wanna mark one thing. When you started speaking, you automatically said, the first government didn't explain this and the reasoning, which is very good, right? Because when you are extending, you automatically signaling what is the new part of material, which also later it's easier to track the weighing and the delivery. Good. Congrats everyone. That was very good done drill. And now we have the second drill, which will be very similar. The rules are the same. The motion will be changed, and the arguments done will be also changed. We can also change the groups, so people can work in a different teams. Let me just divide that. So now we will do.
Sorry, in the beginning you said that you will return to groups to describe second extensions.
Cool. If you have the second extension, I'm happy to listen. I'm sorry.
Okay. First group, but so if they have, they can start. But I also have an idea that I wanted to discuss.
Okay, sure. So let's start with the first group. Do you have the another point? Sorry, I thought that you delivered all later. So let's start with this. If not, we can start from you. What is your name? I'm sorry, because I don't know how to read the Cyrillic.
It's in Russian. It's written in Russian. Alexei.
Alexei. Okay, that's fine. Alexei is good. So you can tell us your extension, and then we will listen now. It's fine. Go on.
So as we see, first government just additionally claims that it brings radical thoughts and make people more angry and radical. Our extension will be like mechanism by the impact of this radicalism and that it makes people angry. So the point is, modern world is very complex and no issues have simple answers and solutions. Moreover, people in society are weighted to have an opinions on every current topic. Nobody just nobody admits she did not have such an opinion about something very actual. And also in democratic states, these opinions affects government's policy, concrete decisions of lawmakers. And we know that in classical medias, we suppose that in classical medias, like work professionals who have education in journalism and who understand the complexity of the issues they comment or write about, and they often do not provide certain views to public. They just give an information, try to give an arguments from both sides and so on, to give a chance to choose an opinion to public. And in social medias, we see completely different situation. And in classical media, need to say that they try to dazzle, they see that people wanted to understand complex things, and they try to try to spoon feed the information for users. And in social medias, they tend to be more radical, because radical and dazzling content helps to attract more users, and they can sell advertising, they can earn money somehow on it. And that's why many users in social media tend to use such a content to provide stupefying facts, share radical views, because in this complex world there is demand on very simple answers, and this demand, they can provide these answers and opinions for this demand. And that's so our extension is clear mechanism how it works, why people believe, why people really want to believe in social medias, why they because there is high demand on such an information. And our extension is wider impact, because we show that that's not only affects people's opinion, it's affects whole society, because during affecting people's mind, it affects state policy, because then these people who believe in simple decision, they wait from government to realize these simple decisions and to make clear policy, which is very hard to realize in a modern complex world. So that's our extension.
Yes, again, I think the good job is done, because there is mention already in the extension when the mechanization has happened, what were the loopholes before entering, and why this is necessarily important. Is there any group who would like to add any other extension?
Can I?
Yeah, go on.
I'm from the third group. Yes. It was approved why fake news are bad, and why does modern social media makes people stupid, and why it's bad. But also I wanted to add the extension about spending too much time while reading the topics on social media, because the companies which provide the social medias want people to stay on their sites as much time as possible, because it brings them money in some mechanisms, and how they make people stay there, because while the man is reading the topic about Turkey, and about Turkey, for example, then there are some more topic recommendations under the this state. For example, what kind of wings fairy would you be, and so on. And the man is interested in it, and he leads he reads this topic, and then there are more and more recommendations, so that he can very easily spend hours reading nonsense, which with very big one second, which he is probably to forget 19% of this information, I mean. So this doesn't bring him any benefits, and so on. And why is it bad? Because he spends too much time reading nothing which can bring benefits to him or his relatives whom he loves, and so on. And he could use this time in more proper way, like working and studying some things which could bring him benefit, for example, and so on. And this argument is better than on our opening government, because yes, radical people, but radical people is very small group, and it's of course not all the radical people will do any radical actions. And even if we proved why fake news are bad, we still see that without our extension of our table, of our group, I mean, without this extension, the opening government's case won't be relevant. And by also our case about spending too much time on social media touches all people using internet, but not also some special and small groups. And also our case works in long-term perspective, which brings more suffrage and so on, and bad things for people. That's all.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to flag that there is a shift here, that we are talking also about the addiction and not only about things coming directly from the source of media being the source of information, but also from just spending more time in the social media, which I think is very good. And now that's finding the extension. And as you saw, there was many areas to find a good extension from this motion. So it's now time to do the second drill. I will just message Artem. I think since you worked in this teams, we will not change that, and we will keep the same teams. In the meantime, when Artem is not here, I will post you here the slide. So the motion for this drill, the rules are the same, 10 minutes, preparing the extension, but you are now the opposition side, so you're closing opposition.
Hey, I think people should be able to join to the same groups, or can't they?
Awesome. So look in the chat. So the motion for this drill is, this house believes that environmental groups should prioritize encouraging individual actions instead of policy change. You are opposition team now, so closing opposition. And
And sorry, Klaudia, are you going to tell us what the opening table said?
Yeah, I'm just copying now. So the opening table statement is as follows. Convincing arguments to show that most people do not have the time, energy, or financial freedom to make meaningful changes to their spending patterns, and so environmental group cannot create the critical mass required to change the incentives of companies, Opposition also gives a range of examples where most of the people don't have money to make individual actions. Now you need to add the extension towards this and then prepare the weighing, why this is more important than the materials delivered before. And it's now 23 past, so we are seeing each other here in 12 minutes, which is 35 past. Everyone is back in the main room. Please, before you get back, divide the roles who will be speaking what. See ya. Okay, we are all back. This time we do reverse order. So we will start with room 3 to provide us first the extension and then the other person the weighing. So I hope that you divide between yourself the roles. So the first person from room number 3, if you would like to present the extension, and the second person the weighing.
I will begin then. I'll begin from the characterization. Why, what extension are we going to give, and why are they more important than from the first opening opposition? I'm sorry. So first of all, opposition doesn't tell us the consequences of the good consequences of why the individual action is bad or is worse than policy change, and we're gonna tell about this. Secondly, they don't tell. Of course they tell why individual action is bad, but they don't say why is it worse than policy change and why opposition wins. So without our extension, their case isn't relevant and playable, and even playable. And thirdly, we are going to give unique extension, which tells why prioritization of political change is better than individual action, because individuals can affect the politics, but not as good as politics can affect each person and the society on the whole. I mean, because it's faster and more effective and so on, but that's the speech which my teammates are going to give. And the reason why in the world of proposition, not every person will be going to change their lives, and in our world, not only political changes, I mean, and also each person's state of thinking and sight of the changes. So now my teammates are gonna give extension.
Okay.
Okay.
For this.
Okay. So I would explain why those groups of activists would have a better impact or can change the view of to the policy change better than to the I don't know, ideas of people. So first of all, we understand that people don't want to begin with themselves, because then they should leave some of benefits. Yeah, they yesterday they vouch better food with a beautiful in a beautiful package, but today they should buy a worse one. Yesterday they had an plastic package, and it was very cheap, but today they should pay more for an I don't know, bag or an organic package or all this stuff. And there are a lot of people who don't want to begin with themselves, yeah, because they see there are a lot of people who didn't do this. There are companies who didn't do this. There are companies who still are using harmful stuff. There are companies who still affect the environment, and they want to change themselves. Yeah. So and if we work on the policy, we can do this stuff on the whole country, and all the people understand that they should buy this stuff, and elsewhere. In else case, they would be punished or something like that. But second of all, it's easier to convince the government or parliament to make this policy rather than convince the people that they should change themselves. Why is this true? Because we think that mostly in the parliament there are people who understand this problem, because there are a little bit more informed people, because they are already in the parliament, so they understand how the world works, and how the things can affect each other, and where we are going, and yeah. So they understand the gravity of the problem, and the activists can easier to persuade them to make those policy which will affect the whole country, and which will affect the whole country, and change the stuff. Why this is why this will work good, I already explained. And third one.
Yep. So my teammate showed that like environmental groups can really hardly encourage individual actors. So of course we admit that we all make individual choices. Taking them all into account, it creates a widely problem with environmental. But my teammate shows you a problem with free rider, with like these individuals that are not going to like spend the additional time or additional money to save environmental, like to save nature or climate, with like when they are not sure that other people will follow them in this. So they I don't know, they themselves don't change anything like in wide perspective without all individuals making like this stuff. And we show you that in this case we need policy change, because this policy change can, like, lawmaker can make a law about usage of plastic things, and in this case everyone have to follow it. So we don't have such a free rider problem. And another thing we want to show is that policy change is a better mechanism. Why it's not only a problem of individual actions, like of people who like themselves made not right for environmental decision, not environmental friendly decisions. So we see that states themselves do not restrict themselves to solve environmental problems, as USA did not sign Kyoto Protocol. China does not want to like restrict their fabrics manufacturers, like they choose economic development instead of environmental, and it affects problems much. So also private companies are also not tend to solve like this, to invest money in their manufacturers to make it more environmentally friendly. And we did not see, like, from government any mechanisms that show that these individual actions, like for these private companies, can change the situation, because this free rider problem still exists. But we see how like these environmental groups can change public policy, because they can, like, try to prove for before elections voters that it is a problem and we need, like, such a solution. So that's why I think we win, and we make a comparison that is crucial for this topic, and which not was made by opening opposition.
Thank you very much. That was very comprehensive and was very good to hear. So many extensions. Let's proceed now to the second group. So room number 2 in reverse order. Now it's your time.
Okay, so I'll briefly try to sum up all the stuff my group has provided, and they will add something if I will make a mistake. So the first point is that not only people don't have time or money, they don't want to feel guilty for the all ecological changes in the world. And we believe it's more important issue for the developed countries where these environmental groups exist. And secondly, it is our burden of proof, not just to mitigate the opposition side, but to provide the reasons why do the policy change, why do we need the policy change exactly. So we think it is easier to regulate ecological policy with the help of government rather than force people to do so, because it takes a lot of time to educate every person. And here are two reasons. Firstly, we show there are two ways. So firstly, we think that a lot of companies are monopolies, and we are not available to regulate them, like flying has no alternative, so we can push some restrictions on them with the help of policy change. And secondly, we believe that policy is more stable because people trust the government, and it is really hard to encourage the individuals to do some new stuff every day. That's why we see. That's why we believe people can see the bigger impact and the bigger changes in one day when we can regulate some big companies and so on and so forth. And people will believe that something was done. And it means that it's encourage people and motivate them. And moving to the way off. So firstly, we show the priority why people need to see something was done. They need to see changes in the short run to reach the long run. And secondly, we show more probability to reach the impacts than the opening half. And that's why we have more reasoning than OO had. So please vote CO.
Cool, that's great. Do we have another argument from room number 2?
Yes, I suppose like I can go on just like sort of explain it in more detail. So basically we had like 3 main points. The fact that despite what our opening team said, the actual problem is that like most of the time options are not available. Or perhaps the options are available, but it's not clear which one to choose because there is a lack of information. Companies are private, they can choose what information they want to give and which ones they don't want to give. And oftentimes they don't obviously publish like data that is like sort of incriminating against them, especially when it comes to the environment. So there's a lot of greenwashing going on where consumers aren't actually aware which one is the right choice. And oftentimes they make the wrong choice, but feel that they're making the right choice, which results in this false sense of security whereby they feel like they're doing something good, but they actually aren't. And obviously we want to stop climate change. And if we feel like we're doing something good, then we might not actually sort of support other policies that perhaps would be more effective because we feel like we're already doing something, but we're not. So the problem is just getting worse day by day. Whereas the government obviously can have access to all this information. They can require companies to give them all their like carbon footprints, etc., or like require them to collect this data because at the moment most companies don't collect it. So therefore, because government can ask for all this information, they're more likely to make a more informed decision, which will be better. And then obviously she talked about monopolies as well. So the fact that only governments have power over monopolies, there is no way, even if the demand is 100%, that people can break monopolies. You need to have a government there to do it. And like oftentimes these monopolies such as OPEC or the aviation industry are, like have the biggest impact on the environment. So that's a huge issue. And then finally, technology. So like the biggest issue is not like changing consumer preferences, it's rather changing the products themselves, because oftentimes what we consume, you know, food, like sort of traveling from place to place, we can't really stop this as such. Rather, we need to change the technology behind that. And to change technology, you need huge investments that A, cost a lot of money, and B, take a lot of time to realize themselves. And for that, for companies to be willing to do that, they need to see that the investment is going to be viable for quite a while. So they need policy for that, because obviously governments are a lot more reliable than like consumer trends, which change from day to day. And then also the fact that, look, the policy is also likely going to be a lot more, well, obviously the policy is going to be more planned out than like sort of a trend. People, like millions of people making decisions, it's rather chaotic. Whereas with a policy, it's going to be planned out and the effects will be planned out. These are huge changes in technology could have huge impact, and there are huge risks associated with that. So if it's planned out properly, and businesses, unlike with like sort of consumer demand, which like just happens ad hoc on the spot, if companies are given chance to prepare for this, like, you know, warnings from the government, right, you have 5 years to change your policy, there are chances, like there's more time for the government, for companies to adapt, and therefore they're less likely to make mistakes, because and that's like the main issue going on to like sort of the public perception of the environmental movement. Oftentimes people agree with it, but they feel like it's not sort of viable. So if there are any mistakes along the way, then people will just simply lose all faith in the environmental movement. So we need to make sure that there are no mistakes along the way, and policy is the best way to ensure that, because there's more time and more experts on board. And then we talked about like sort of targeting politicians, the fact that they're a smaller group of people, so it's more effective to target them, and because of that we'll have like more resources and more time, so we'll be able to like get across more policies, more messages. Whereas if we're just targeting a huge group of people, we can only really focus on one message. And remember, all these people have different interests as well, they use different platforms, whereas with MPs, you know, they all go to parliament, you just go to the parliament, they all have a similar background, it's very easy to sort of get your message across to them, and therefore you can get more messages across and create more impactful change, which leads to more results, which is our final point, the fact that look, even though like the opening team never explained why people would actually want to make these changes in the first place, and oftentimes we see that there's a lot of climate deniers or people who simply just aren't aware of the problem because they want to ignore it, because if you feel that you're guilty, or if you're the issue, you tend just to want to ignore it and pretend that it doesn't exist because you don't don't like to feel guilty. Whereas if we make the enemy the government, or if we make the enemy big companies, then people are more likely to go behind it because they feel like they're not the issue, rather there is someone else who is the issue. So it's like sort of like tribal mentality. So there's going to be more public support. There's also going to be more press, right? Because it's like there is never any press about, oh, I don't know, this 5-year-old girl decided to stop using plastic bags. Whereas if the government decides to make a decision, there's going to be a lot of news around it, which means that there's going to be more positive press, more awareness, which means that there's going to be more public support. So therefore, more action is likely going to be taken on reducing climate change. I think I spoke.
Okay, I will stop here now. Thank you so much, because we have 5 minutes left and we have one more room to present their case. So room number 1, you can, if something was already said, you can just add the new points, or like said when you were adding them, that's fine, or you can present completely new points. So whoever from room 1 would like to do this.
Hi everyone, so I would like to start. So basically, our main point is that we as authorities, as the position, we believe that the authorities have much more knowledge and ability to control the ecological policy of the government and of the whole country, and then the different individuals. So basically, the government has an ability, has an opportunity to create different institutions, if they weren't created yet, that have a lot of, for example, scientists that have a lot of knowledge, that have a formal education, say in ecology and in environmental science, and that could lead to the situation when we as a government have the knowledge and the ability to coordinate the ecological, the environmental policy with other policies of the government, let's say the economy policy. So and if we would compare that with individuals, we could say that individuals are, unfortunately, they don't, first of all, they don't have such knowledges. They mostly don't have a formal education in this field. So some situation may occur when the individuals believe in some myth, for example, that that the paper bags are much better than a plastic bags, for example, or that the glass bottles are much better than some kind of plastic bottles, and that could lead that for the actions that will only hurt the environment. Moreover, there is such thing as greenwashing, when the people believe, as was already mentioned, that the people believe that doing some actions or buying some products will lead to will bring good to our environment, when that's not the case. So if we would compare, let's say, some authorities that have an expertise, that have enough knowledge, that can make right decisions, because they know much more information about how things actually work than different individuals. They, of course, they can create specific policies that will be more adequate than the decisions of different individuals. So actually, that's the main idea, that as the government, that authorities have much more expertise in this question, and if we would let different individuals that don't have enough knowledge decide whether the action is good or not good for the environment. Even if they don't know the truth, we believe that the situation should not happen, and that's the reason why we should concentrate on creating special policies more than on giving the initiative to different individuals. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Do we have something to add for the room number 1? Okay. Therefore, thank you all so much for participating in these workshops and for the exercises. Just one piece of comment. I think there is no sense to give the extensive feedback towards how well was that done, especially because that wasn't full debate and there was like a bit of out of context because we asserted what the opening tables were saying. I think what was important for you to notice, there are multiple ways of extending the motions, and there is the way how you will frame why this is relevant and how you will try to weigh up your arguments. And I think you did very well, and I hope that you will be practicing that at your competitions as well. As I promised, I have a workshop to share for you. This is specifically about the extension because the workshop which I delivered was mostly focused on the weighing metrics. So let me send you the video. It's around an hour, and I think it's excellent because it gave you the idea what sort of word usage, how to fit your strategy when you are the closing house. I will also post the link to the presentation on Discord so you can access the notes later, and I hope you will find that useful. Do you have any questions after this workshop?
Yeah, I have one question. Where can we find the slides?
They will be posted in a moment on Discord. I'm just firstly linking you the workshops, which I would like to recommend. Just a second. It will be in the chat. There we go. It's exactly an hour, and I think it's very worth to spend time on watching this. So here is the link to the workshop. And I'm going now on Discord. I will tell you in which channel. Let me find the channel. The channel will be...
We don't have open channels in Discord, but if you want to continue, you can just stay in this meeting.
No.
It is the last one.
I just want to post the presentation. So
you can send the presentation to me, and I can post it on Facebook when I post the recordings.
Yeah, cool. So I will pass to the Artyom, so you will see the presentation and the access. If you will have any further questions, here is my name and surname on Facebook, so you can message me if you will have questions about some materials, or you can also still today register for the Sparks. There is a group Spark Debates 2.0 on Facebook, so you can go there, and until midnight CACT, so GMT +2, you can register there to practice with the people across the globe. So thank you so much. Good luck. And I'm sending Artyom the workshop, so you will have the access later.
And thank you, Klaudia, for this workshop. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye. Good luck.